Welcome to this evening's podcast. I'm Rachel, your host of the Kickass Midlife Method. And tonight we're talking about mindset, like how to shift your mindset and kind of reset it to fuel lasting health, strength, and confidence in midlife. I'm choosing this topic in particular because often I will see that I will get check-in forms every week from women within the Kick-Ass Midlife Method community. And I'll see that those people that have the best results are those people that constantly ask questions, reflect on their forms, listen to the feedback, and then action it. So we're going to cover today growth versus fixed mindset, understanding the difference between that action gap that holds you back from opening up to growth. And then those kind of ideas about how those that fixed mindset can manifest in day-to-day life, and how we can rewire it so that you can develop this growth mindset around healthy eating, nutrition, your exercise, and actually changing a lot around your life in terms of maybe that feeling of overwhelm. So, what is a growth versus fixed mindset? So, I'm sure some of those people that are in the psychology in the group are aware of this, and you might have come across it if you have ever done any kind of business courses. It's kind of that idea that in a fixed mindset, you can think that everything, you can't change anything. It's like the instance of like if you're born. You might think you're born with a certain traits in terms of your intelligence or your personality, those kind of things, and nothing can change. Versus a growth mindset is that you can make changes, and it's all just a case of putting in that effort to learn, having the support and that strategy. So typically, someone with a fixed mindset can avoid challenge and give up easily, see the effort as fruitless. There's nothing I can do about it anyway. That's just the way things are. And that someone with a growth mindset can just see that effort and that challenge as a path to learning and growth. Don't fixate on the outcome. They just fix on the kind of the process and what they're going to learn in the meantime. So an example of this. So I want you to write down one growth win in the chat from your Kickass journey so far. I know that might be difficult for those who've just joined this week, although some of the conversations I've been having with new people this week has already showed me that they've had that growth mindset. And then one fixed moment. So an example of a fixed mindset in terms of the Kickass midlife training journey is to think I'm terrible at strength training. I can't do push-ups. Whereas the growth mindset is just actually, I'm going to start on my knees. I'm going to start leaning against the wall even, and I'm going to develop my upper body strength. And it simply is that I'm just not strong enough for the full one yet. And with consistent practice, guidance, I'm gonna be able to do a full push-up. So I just want you to add in the chat box now, what's your one for a fixed mindset as an example of something you've done in the Kick-Ass Midlife community where you feel like a little bit, you might have been guilty of having a bit of a fixed mindset and then a growth mindset. So just write in the chat box now one of those things. And we all do it. Yep, food prep, that's a good one. Don't have time to food prep each day. That's a really good example, which I see often with lots of people, so you're not alone. And have you got a growth mindset, a growth win as well, Rachel? Growth, getting better at push-ups or piss-ups even. Fixed mindsets, no good at cooking, don't feel confident. Fix, I'm never going to eat a chocolate croissant again. Um, and then any growth mindsets as well. I think we've got how many people? I've got 11 people on this call, and I've got two, three people who've put something in. So anything else? Fixed feels like nothing is changing. I'm not doing it right. Haven't improved my upper body due to injury, but my lower body is getting stronger. Exactly. It's a really good growth mindset as well. Anyone else? Keep on improving. Everyone's fixating on the push-ups now because I've said that. Anything else? Hit my macros by trying harder. Yeah. Yeah, that's good. Okay, let's go on. Um, so developing a growth mindset, how do you think you develop a growth mindset? So you can't think your way into a growth mindset. You can't force it and saying, right, I'm going to have a growth mindset. You kind of act your way there. So it is about kind of thinking, reflecting, planning, contemplating how you're going to make that change. And those, it's actually actionable, like just taking small, consistent steps, usually into your kind of challenge zone. So, for instance, going back to, I think Claire just said it about food, making something new can be hard. It's like a little bit of like, there's tension there. I am actually a really good cook, and sometimes I'll be like, oh, the thought of making something new, there's a little bit of tension and friction there. Then you make it and you're like, God, it's so easy. And so it's about taking those small, consistent steps, trying something new, and actually, that belief, it starts growing your growth mindset because you see that you can do it. And therefore, that little step enables you to realize actually you can do loads more. So it's a little bit like the whole exercise trajectory in and of itself. Like you think at the beginning, there's no way I can do a squat or do a squat at 50 kgs or whatever. And then slowly, bit by bit, with progressive overload, which is why we do progressive overload, you suddenly realize there's all these things that you can do. And therefore, you're able to accept that no matter how strong you get, it doesn't ever get any easier, feel easier, because the progressive overload means that often you're adding more weight. So it'll always feel that challenge. But then with the growth mindset, you begin to be able to accept and actually embrace that and quite enjoy that development because you're learning all the time. So I want you to kind of write down if you have had a fixed mindset about anything, and you can be someone with growth mindset and fixed mindset at any one time. I want you to think about what slows you down, your action, what's stopping you taking something on, whether it's something in the Kickass method community, in terms of like something in the plan that you've found a bit of a sticking point. What is it that stops you? I'll give you an example of myself is I went into a kind of business community, and they are all fitness trainers who are probably 20 to 32. I'm like at least 20 years older than everybody in there. And so my fixed mindset was like, they can't teach me anything because they're too young. And I have to say, they've taught me a lot. So that would be my fixed mindset as an example. So again, just share in the chat what it is, anything like that. Um, Yeah, growth mindset, Brenda. Yeah, a good one. Like you can do what you can do in the time you have, not that it's got to be perfect. You've got to have this perfect time. So what slows, if you have something that's a sticking point for you, what is it that stops you doing it? For instance, there can be lots of overthinking things. Yeah, you can overthink and then procrastinate and end up thinking and talking yourself out of something all the time. Um, It's a little bit sometimes within the kick-ass community where someone will sign up to coaching, and it's a little bit like thinking the signing up is going to do it all. You have to then take the next step and be growing behind that coaching and take on the coaching, getting behind on the plan one day and telling myself I'll catch up, and then something gets in the way. And then I suppose, Rachel, that's again another instance of a kind of perfectionist mindset as well about if you can't catch up, it's an all or nothing thing. Well, I might as well just stop completely and wait until that perfect time where I feel like I've got the time to do all of it. Prioritizing something else like work. Yeah, that's another a massive one. Stressing when I struggle to in the class, beating myself up. Yeah. Yeah, good. So now we're going to kind of dig down. A lot of that came up in that in those chats actually about this. I don't have time. So that's a really common fixed mindset. It is probably the number one thing I come across in all the conversations I have on Instagram with loads of different women who are like really desperate to change their health. They've actually got fundamental health problems. They're really overweight. It's really affecting their confidence, all of those things. And yet, still, what comes up is I don't have time. And actually, it's one of the most important things you can ever do for yourself is making sure you're optimizing your health for longevity, for adventure. And I think what it comes down to is often with work, and there's lots of women in the community, in the Kickass Midlife Method community like this, is that we're all very driven women and we like to do things and we like to hit our goals and be successful. And that often leads into an overperformance at work. You hate the idea of failing, hate the idea of quitting or of not finishing your to-do list. And often some women can link their worth to their output, which often leads to overwork. Well, the more I work, the more I'm achieving. Um, uh, and with most of us in the community now, at least 45 plus, you'd think after 20 years plus of working, we would know by now that you will never finish your to-do list. There will always be something to do. That deadline that someone gave you is not a deadline at all. It will drag on for another week, all those kind of things. So it's really about what exercise what kind can you do to reflect and understand that and think about rather than missing everything else in your that's important to your values about feeling better, feeling more confident about your strength and your health, optimizing your health. How can you block work? A really good example of this is at the retreat I just ran. We did a whole exercise about priorities and what were your values, how much time do things take up in your life now, and how do you want it to be? And one of the women there said that, oh, I just need to organize my day, my work better so I can do more, so I can leave earlier. And that's a classic fixed mindset rather than focusing on what do I want to do, and therefore how do I prioritize that and make sure that the work doesn't come into that. It was more like I'll do more at work so I can have the time outside. And obviously, you're just setting yourself up again for overwork because that work will always be there. It's about how can you prioritize outside of work to make sure that you leave when you've said you're going to leave. You're going to stop work if you're working from home. It's a real classic one of like, I'm guilty of this too. I have to draw myself up on this one. Stopping, when you say you're going to stop rather than going, I'll just do this one more bit, I'll clear this one bit of work and then I won't have to do it tomorrow. And then tomorrow comes and you've got just as much to do. So it doesn't really matter. So it's about making sure you fall out of that kind of fixed mindset of you don't have time. You actually do have time. It is about your priorities and how you prioritize that and making sure you bring yourself back to that all the time. Sometimes I think it's about writing it down somewhere and then reading it every single day because you remind yourself about what it is that's important. And this is another one. So I don't know whether this resonates with some of you. My family won't eat that. I don't want to cook twice, so therefore I can't eat nutritiously. It's all out the window. I can't do it. And I've put this picture here of the body coach, his Instagram this week with him cooking pasta, which is cute. It's so cute. If you've not seen it, go and watch it. It's really, really cute. And she's just making the whole pasta sauce with his help. She's 2 years old. So that's a real limiting belief on two levels here, I think. This fixed mindset is that belief that your family can't accept change, or actually, is it you standing in the way and don't want to change what you're cooking? Because actually, changing what you're cooking, what you're used to, requires a little bit of effort. You have to think about what else you're going to cook and you have to change it. So when you're saying, I can't do it because, yeah, my family want to do that. I won't eat that. I don't want to cook twice. Well, actually, cooking twice with a tray bake is really not that difficult. Cooking fish takes like literally 5 minutes. And the other thing to think of is you can involve your kids or your husband, because actually, I'm sure lots of us may have set ourselves up for it by always doing the cooking. So I'm sure most of us have got kids who are older now, and they should be cooking anyway, and or your husband. So really, those new habits for them form through consistent exposure. And for you, I think it's a case of reflecting if this is one that you fall into. Excuse me if I get some water. If this is one you fall into, is it actually your family or is it actually you? Because you just think, oh, I can't think about what I'm going to cook. I'm just going to cook what's easy and what I know. So does that resonate with anyone? Does anyone feel like I'm trying to reduce the pasta nights? Well, exactly. Um, your husband's the only one who cooks. That's amazing. And therefore, with if you are one of those lucky ones who has food cooked for you, if that food's not nourishing, and if it's not nourishing for you, it's also not nourishing for them. It's not that we as women have a different diet that's healthy for us and is not healthy for men. It's exactly the same. So maybe it's about learning from learning from for both of you. Just put the order in. And then the other one is that whole thing about I need a treat. There's this whole fixed mindset of like, I get to the end of the day, I need a treat. And I'm not normally necessarily talking about chocolate or wine or anything like that. It could be anything. And obviously you get into that complete cycle over and over again where you feel bad, you soothe yourself with something, and then you repeat that cycle because it's just fixed in your mind that that is how you deal with something. So there's two things obviously going on here. There's obviously that habitual fixed mindset that you can't possibly change. That's just the way you do things. And actually you're not probably even aware of that kind of cycle anymore. And it's about getting out of that cycle. So rather than thinking, no, why is it that you feel you need the treat? Rather than thinking, it's because like I'm a failure. I can't resist it. I'm shit. It's my willpower. I don't have anything. Why is it that you need the treat? Look around that thing. What is a stress trigger? And can you do something about that stress trigger instead of just accepting it and you bearing the brunt of it because you feel so stressed that you've just got to comfort eat or stay up really late because you're just trying to buy some time back from the fact that maybe something in your life, work, relationships is just causing you so much stress that you feel like you need that time. And so you stay up ages through the night because you want to get that me time. So, um, so what thing could you change earlier in the day to not need a treat? And any of you think of anything that would help with that? You show me your weekly feedback to get him on board. That's a really good idea, Emma. Just going back to the topic before about the nutrition, when I give for those premium members who I give weekly feedback on their nutrition, if your husband or partner cooks for you, or even if he doesn't actually, it's quite useful because the if you're eating the same thing, then obviously that feedback is just as useful for him because make sure I have my protein mid-afternoon. Exactly, Caroline. That's a really good one. And talking about a fixed mindset and a growth mindset, I still often have people who come in, and obviously this method works. It's worked for like hundreds of women. I recommend the protein shake because I've got experience of seeing and knowing it works. And I'll still get people come in and they won't do the protein shake until finally like 5 or 6 weeks down the line when I've said it 6 times. And then they go, oh, yeah, God, it's amazing. It really works, doesn't it? So the sooner you can process the reflect, process, and act, the sooner you're going to get results. So if you are someone who takes 3 or 4 days to watch your feedback back, and by then you watch it really short and you don't really take it in, you're setting your progress back. It's about kind of taking that check-in on board, reflecting and acting. I like a treat when I feel good, which is the opposite of herbal tea. Stops reaching for the drinks cabinet. Yes, yeah, that whole thing about giving yourself a little bit of a pause, but that just stops the behavior. I think there's also something around actually reflecting and looking larger than that. Like what, your fixed mindset is like on the treat, but like what is it that's causing the treat? On an aside, bit separate from this. I often see in the community, have you got any sweet treats, any kind of sweet suggestions that I can have? Often, in fact, not often, 9 times out of 10, 10 times out of 10, the reason you want a sweet treat is either because you haven't eaten enough your main meal, you're thirsty, or the stress and emotional response. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and I think, yeah, Claire, when you're stressed, single parenting, 2 kids and a dog, again, it also, I think, slips into your stress, but you want that thing because it feels like I'm rewarding myself for the fact that I just feel I'm just stressed, and that's going to fill this like temporary gap of feeling bad, soothing me, and then I'm going to feel better for a short space of time. It's like, how can you have a growth mindset around that and see beyond the temporary release that gives you, and what can you do instead? For instance, can you buy a really expensive, lovely bubble bath and you go for a bath instead, for instance? Oh, this one for you, Emma. So I also get this a lot, and this kind of goes beyond just the holiday idea. What if I lose all my gains on holiday? Help, I need more exercise. Now, some people are saying this because actually it's really good because mentally they want to still keep going, and it keeps up that consistency. And I'm absolutely behind exercising on holiday. I exercised on holiday. To me, it's like perfect because suddenly you've got all this time so you can exercise, go back and have this really long, lovely breakfast rather than having to rush to get to breakfast, get to work, and all of that. So actually, I love exercising on holiday even more. But for some people, I think what's going on is this fear that they're going to put on loads of weight again. So therefore, I need the exercise to compensate for the fact that I might eat more on holiday. Now, first of all, don't forget that actually what makes you put on weight is not doing the exercise and burning it off, which is just such an old-fashioned way to think about it. It's about your nutrition. So you don't want to be thinking about, I'm going on holiday, I've got to like do more exercise to burn off the fact that I'm going to like eat ice creams and have more wine and eat more chips. Don't do that. Do exercise because it's good for you mentally, because you want to keep your gains, your strength gains going, and enjoy the food when you're there. But just think of it as nourishing eating is delicious here and abroad. So it's not like eating nourishing food is horrible and therefore you're going, oh, finally I can escape and eat, something different on holiday, like fish in Greece by the sea is obviously tastes more delicious because you by the sea, but you'd have fish here as well. So it's thinking about that when you go away. Obviously, you are going to change a little bit about what you're eating, but enjoy that and don't fret about it, but maybe think about your approach around it rather than that fixed mindset of like, oh, I'm going on holiday, I'm going to eat what I like. Think about, well, rather than having like a plate of chips every night, can you have your fish and your meat with salad instead of a chips every night? Instead of having 2 balls of ice cream in Italy, can you just have one? Do you actually need two? What is it about holiday that makes you suddenly go, I'm just going all out? So enjoy the moments. And I've got really good graphs of people who've been on the program for quite a long time where you see holiday times, they go up a bit and then they go down. So it's about trusting the process and knowing that, yes, you may go up a little bit, but that does not mean you're failing and it's all going to go down the pan. It won't go down the pan. All it is getting back to the process. So another quick exercise for you to do if you're on holiday or you're about to go on holiday that you can do in your own time. Think about where you're going, what the type of food is, and what could you choose from that country's menu that is just as delicious and fits the Kickass Midlife Method so that you're still getting your full 3 macros so that you feel really good because you're nourishing your body as well. So remembering that addressing your fixed mindset is a daily choice. Its growth isn't like a trait. You have to make that choice every day that you're going to decide to learn something. You're going to reflect and act on something. And those consistent wins mean that you'll build new neural pathways and you'll be able to grow this growth mindset. So it does mean thinking differently. It does mean holding yourself up to account a little bit and reflecting on the stuff that you're doing, asking yourself why you're doing that and why you can't try something different. Because the sooner you do that, the sooner you'll see the change will drive a growth mindset, and the sooner you'll see some results. So, your next steps: identify one fixed belief, and I want you to post it in the group about what one fixed belief you have that's holding you, getting you stuck, and how you're going to challenge it.